Please give it back.
The auditorium falls silent as Destiny Bryant steps onto the stage. Her worn sneakers echo against the polished wood floor. 500 students sit in stunned silence, watching the girl they once called trash hold a microphone with steady hands. The same hands that trembled just 3 months ago when Alexander Ross first snatched her pocket watch. Today, everything changes. Today, the quiet girl with the fake timepiece is about to expose the biggest crime syndicate their town has ever seen. Alexander Ross. Destiny's voice cuts through the silence like a blade. Her dark eyes lock onto the blonde boy in the front row. You called this watch a piece of junk. You said it was fake, worthless, just like me. She lifts the antique pocket watch, and morning sunlight catches its surface. The intricate engravings seem to shimmer with hidden power. But you were wrong about everything. This watch isn't fake, and neither am I. Alexander's confident smirk wavers. His perfectly styled hair and $1,000 jacket suddenly feel less like armor. He glances nervously at his father, Vincent Ross, who sits with the other school board members. The man's face has gone pale. Today, I'm going to show you what real power looks like, Destiny continues. Her voice grows stronger with each word, and it has nothing to do with money, threats, or fear. If you're enjoying this incredible story of justice, please hit that like button and subscribe for more amazing tales of courage triumphing over corruption. Your support through the thanks button below helps me continue sharing these powerful stories that need to be heard. Thank you so much for being here with me as we witness what happens when truth meets power. The pocket watch begins to glow. A soft blue light emanates from its center. And suddenly, the auditorium's projection screen flickers to life. Video footage appears. Crystal clear recordings of Alexander Ross dealing drugs, threatening students, and planning what he called the final solution for Destiny Bryant. The room erupts in gasps. Teachers cover their mouths in shock. Students point and whisper. And Principal Williams looks like he's about to faint. "This is impossible," Alexander whispers, his voice barely audible above the chaos. But Destiny hears him. She's been hearing everything for weeks now, thanks to the most advanced surveillance device ever created. "Nothing's impossible when you have the right tools," she says. Her grandmother's pocket watch continues to project evidence that will bring down an entire criminal empire. 3 months earlier, Destiny Bryant was just another scholarship kid trying to survive Westfield Academy. Her second-hand clothes and battered backpack marked her as an outsider from day one. The exclusive private school catered to the children of politicians, business moguls, and old money families. Destiny's father fixed their cars, while her mother cleaned their offices. She earned her place through academic excellence. Her 4.0 GPA was the only thing standing between her family and financial ruin. The pocket watch had belonged to her grandfather, a man she barely remembered but whose legacy somehow felt important. Her mother claimed it was just a sentimental trinket, something to remember family by in their tiny apartment above the auto shop. Destiny wore it every day. The weight of it against her chest felt like carrying a piece of history. Even if that history was unclear, Alexander Ross noticed the watch on a Tuesday morning in chemistry class. His ice blue eyes fixed on the chain visible above Destiny's collar. "Nice watch," he said, his tone dripping with false admiration. "Where'd you get it? The dollar store?" His friends laughed. The sound echoed off the lab's tile walls like breaking glass. Destiny's cheeks burned. She tucked the watch deeper into her shirt and tried to focus on her equations. But Alexander wasn't finished. He never was when he found a new target. "Seriously, though, is that supposed to be antique or something?" He leaned closer. His expensive cologne couldn't quite mask the cruelty in his voice. Because if you're trying to look rich, you're failing pretty hard. More laughter, more pointing, more phones appearing to capture her humiliation. Destiny's hands shook as she mixed chemicals, the precision she usually prided herself on crumbling under the weight of their mockery. "It's just a family heirloom," she whispered, hoping her quiet response would end the attention. Instead, Alexander's eyes lit up with predatory interest. He'd found her weakness and intended to exploit it fully. "Family heirloom?" He practically shouted the words, making sure everyone in the room heard. "From what family? The local thrift store." The class erupted in laughter. Even some teachers smiled, unwilling to challenge the son of the most powerful man in town. That afternoon in the cafeteria, Alexander struck again, this time with an audience of 300 students watching from their carefully arranged social hierarchies. Destiny sat alone as always, her homemade lunch a stark contrast to the catered meals surrounding her. "Hey, everyone," Alexander called out, his voice carrying across the massive room. "Want to see some real entertainment?" Before Destiny could react, Alexander was beside her table, his hand reaching for the chain around her neck. "Let's get a better look at this family heirloom," he said, his fingers closing around the gold links. Destiny jerked backward, her chair scraping against the floor, but Alexander was stronger, faster, and completely without conscience. The chain snapped. The pocket watch flew through the air in a perfect arc before landing in Alexander's palm. "Wow," he said, examining it with exaggerated interest. "This is even faker than I thought." He held it up to the light, turning it slowly so everyone could see. "Look at this craftsmanship, people. Pure gas station quality." "Please, give it back," Destiny whispered, tears threatening to spill down her cheeks. But Alexander was just getting started. He tossed the watch to his friend Marcus, who caught it with theatrical flair. "Think it's worth anything?" Marcus asked, pretending to study the engravings. "Maybe $5 at a pawn shop?" The watch flew from student to student, a twisted game of keep-away, while Destiny scrambled between tables trying to reclaim her grandfather's gift. Each toss brought more laughter, more pointing fingers, more phone cameras capturing her desperation. "Stop," she pleaded, her voice breaking with emotion. "Please, it's all I have left of him." "Left of who?" Alexander asked, finally catching the watch again. "Your imaginary rich grandfather." He held it high above his head, forcing Destiny to reach for something she'd never be able to grab. "Face it, Bryant, you're poor, you're nobody, and this watch is as fake as your chances of fitting in here." Then he dropped it, not threw, not tossed, but simply opened his fingers and let gravity do its work. The pocket watch hit the tile floor with a sound like breaking hearts, its crystal face spiderwebbing across the surface. Destiny fell to her knees, gathering the pieces while Alexander stood over her like a conquering hero. "Oops," he said, his voice completely devoid of remorse. "Guess it wasn't as durable as you thought." The cafeteria had gone silent. Even his supporters seemed uncomfortable with this level of cruelty. But Alexander felt no shame. He felt power, control, and the intoxicating rush of watching someone break beneath his will. Destiny spent that evening in her father's garage, trying to repair the damaged watch with whatever tools she could find. Her grandfather's face smiled down from a faded photograph, the only picture her family owned of the mysterious man who'd supposedly been some kind of scientist. "I'm sorry, Grandpa," she whispered, her fingers tracing the cracked crystal. "I couldn't protect it." But as she worked, something strange happened. The watch seemed to respond to her touch in ways that defied logic. The broken pieces aligned themselves. The crystal reformed without adhesive, and the hands began moving in patterns that had nothing to do with telling time. For a moment, Destiny thought she was hallucinating, stress and grief playing tricks on her exhausted mind. Then the watch spoke, not with words but with a holographic projection that materialized above its face. Her grandfather appeared, younger than in the photograph, wearing a white lab coat and an expression of urgent concern. "Destiny," the projection said, its voice carrying across decades of silence. "If you're seeing this message, it means you're in danger. Real danger from people who will stop at nothing to protect their secrets." The garage seemed to spin around her, reality shifting like sand beneath her feet. "My name is Dr. Harold Bryant," the projection continued, "and I was never just a scientist. I was a government operative, tasked with developing surveillance technology for national security. This watch is my greatest creation, a device capable of recording, analyzing, and transmitting data that could bring down entire criminal organizations." Destiny's hands trembled as her grandfather's image flickered in the dim light, his words reshaping everything she thought she knew about her family. "I had to disappear," he explained, his holographic eyes seeming to look directly at her. "The people I was investigating discovered my identity. They tried to kill me, tried to destroy my work. But I hid this watch, left it for someone I could trust, someone they would never suspect." The Ross family isn't just wealthy, the projection revealed, each word hitting Destiny like a physical blow. They're the center of a criminal empire. Money laundering, drug trafficking, political corruption on a scale that would shock the nation. Vincent Ross has been using his legitimate businesses to clean dirty money for organized crime. His son Alexander is being groomed to take over the operation. The hologram began to fade, its message nearly complete. "The watch will teach you everything you need to know." Her grandfather's voice grew distant. "Use it wisely. Trust no one in authority. And remember that sometimes the smallest person can cast the biggest shadow." The image disappeared, leaving Destiny alone with a device that suddenly felt heavier than mountains. She stared at the watch, its surface now smooth and unmarked, despite the earlier damage. The crystal face showed not just time, but scrolling text, instructions for accessing hidden functions that seemed impossible for 1970s technology. Voice recording, video capture, data analysis, encrypted transmission, capabilities that belonged in science fiction, not in her father's cluttered garage. The next morning at school, Destiny saw everything differently. Alexander's expensive clothes weren't just fashion statements, they were uniforms marking him as part of something larger and darker. His casual cruelty wasn't random bullying, it was practice for the violence that would define his future. Every teacher who looked away, every administrator who made excuses, they weren't just enabling a bully. They were protecting a criminal enterprise. During first period English, Destiny activated the watch's recording function, the device responding to her touch with silent efficiency. Alexander sat 3 rows away, bragging to his friends about last night's business meeting with his father. "The new shipment arrives Thursday," he whispered, thinking his voice was too low to be overheard. "Dad says I can handle distribution to the college kids, finally getting some real responsibility." The watch captured every word, its advanced microphones picking up conversations from across the room while filtering out background noise. Destiny kept her eyes on her textbook, her expression neutral even as her grandfather's device gathered evidence of federal crimes. She was no longer just a bullying victim. She was an undercover operative with the most sophisticated surveillance equipment ever created. At lunch, Alexander resumed his campaign of humiliation, this time focusing on Destiny's repaired watch. "Did you superglue it back together?" he asked, his voice carrying across the cafeteria. "Because it still looks like garbage to me." He reached for the chain again, expecting the same cowering response he'd received before. Instead, Destiny stood calmly, her dark eyes meeting his blue ones without flinching. "You're right," she said, her voice carrying a confidence that hadn't been there yesterday. "It does look like garbage. That's exactly what my grandfather intended." Alexander paused, confused by her sudden change in demeanor. "See, sometimes the most powerful things hide in plain sight," Destiny continued, her fingers closing protectively around the watch. "Sometimes what looks worthless is actually priceless." "Whatever," Alexander scoffed, but uncertainty flickered across his features. "You're still poor. You're still nobody. And that watch is still fake." He turned to his audience, seeking the validation their laughter always provided. But something had shifted. Destiny's calm confidence was unsettling, her steady gaze making him feel exposed in ways he couldn't understand. "We'll see," Destiny replied, her smile containing secrets Alexander couldn't begin to imagine. She walked away from the table, leaving him standing there with his mouth open, for once in his life at a loss for words. The watch pulsed gently against her chest, its hidden cameras recording his shock, its advanced processors analyzing his micro-expressions for signs of guilt and fear. That afternoon, Destiny began her real education, the watch projecting detailed tutorials directly into her vision through contact lenses her grandfather had somehow anticipated she would need. She learned about signal interception, data encryption, behavioral analysis, and the delicate art of gathering evidence without arousing suspicion. Her grandfather had been more than a scientist. He'd been a spy, and he'd designed this training program to create another. The device revealed Alexander's daily patterns, his routes through the school, his meeting locations, the coded language he used when discussing his family's business. It tracked his phone calls, analyzed his text messages, and built a comprehensive profile of a young man being systematically groomed for a life of organized crime. Every cruel word he'd spoken to Destiny, every moment of humiliation he'd inflicted, was now evidence in a case that would reshape their entire community. Ruby Martinez arrived on a Thursday, a transfer student with coffee-colored skin and watchful eyes that seemed to catalog every detail of Westfield Academy's social structure. She introduced herself to Destiny during chemistry class, her accent carrying hints of federal training that most 17-year-olds wouldn't recognize. "Interesting watch," Ruby observed, her casual comment carrying layers of meaning. "It was my grandfather's," Destiny replied, the standard response she'd rehearsed. But Ruby's smile suggested she knew more than she was revealing, her presence at the school suddenly seeming less coincidental. "Family heirlooms can be more valuable than people realize," Ruby said, her eyes holding Destiny's for a moment longer than normal social interaction required. During lunch, Ruby sat at Destiny's isolated table, her tray containing the same cafeteria food, but her presence transforming the space from exile into alliance. "So," she said quietly, her voice barely audible above the surrounding conversations, "how long have you been gathering evidence on the Ross family?" The question hit Destiny like cold water, her carefully maintained cover suddenly feeling transparent. "I don't know what you mean," Destiny whispered, but her grandfather's watch was already analyzing Ruby's heartbeat, her breathing patterns, the micro-expressions that revealed truth from deception. The readout appeared in Destiny's peripheral vision. Ruby Martinez was telling the truth about something, but lying about her identity. "My name is actually Agent Ruby Martinez," the girl continued, her youthful appearance at odds with the authority in her voice. FBI, Juvenile Operations Division. I've been tracking the Ross organization for 18 months. She leaned closer, her words meant for Destiny alone. Your grandfather was Dr. Harold Bryant. He developed the surveillance device you're wearing, and he's the reason we knew to look for you. The world tilted around Destiny, her understanding of reality shifting once again. He's alive? She asked, hope and fear warring in her chest. Ruby's expression softened, the first genuinely teenage emotion she'd displayed since arriving. No, she said gently. He died 3 years ago, but not before leaving us detailed instructions about you, about the watch, about how to find you when the time was right. Why now? Destiny whispered, her fingers unconsciously touching the watch's chain. Because Alexander is about to graduate, Ruby explained, her voice carrying the weight of federal urgency. His father is planning to bring him fully into the organization. The drug distribution, the money laundering, everything. If we don't stop them soon, Alexander Ross will become untouchable, protected by resources we can't match. Destiny stared across the cafeteria at Alexander, watching him laugh with his friends while her grandfather's device recorded every word of their conversation about weekend drug sales. He wasn't just a bully anymore. He was a criminal, a future kingpin whose cruelty would extend far beyond the walls of Westfield Academy. "What do you need me to do?" she asked, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what she was accepting. "Keep doing exactly what you're doing," Ruby replied, her smile containing deadly purpose. "Gather evidence, document everything, and when the time comes, help us bring down the biggest criminal enterprise this state has ever seen." She stood to leave, her departure as casual as her arrival. "Oh, and Destiny," she added, turning back with an expression that was part teenager, part federal agent. "Your grandfather would be proud." Alexander's cruelty intensified as the days passed, his instincts warning him that something had changed even if his conscious mind couldn't identify the threat. He organized systematic campaigns of humiliation, turning Destiny's poverty into entertainment, her isolation into sport. But each attack was recorded, every cruel word documented, every illegal activity captured by technology he couldn't detect or understand. The watch revealed the scope of the Ross family's operations, money flowing through fake charities, drugs moving through legitimate shipping companies, politicians accepting bribes disguised as campaign contributions. Alexander wasn't just a bully. He was a cog in a machine that corrupted everything it touched, and Destiny had become the weapon designed to destroy it. Mrs. Diana Foster approached Destiny after English class, her kind eyes filled with concern that seemed genuine in a faculty full of opportunists. "I've noticed some tension between you and certain students," she said carefully, her words chosen to avoid direct accusations. "If you need someone to talk to, someone who might be able to help, my door is always open." Destiny studied the teacher's face, her grandfather's device analyzing micro-expressions for signs of deception or ulterior motive. The readout showed sincerity, genuine concern, and something else that looked like courage. "Mrs. Foster," Destiny said quietly, testing the waters of potential alliance. "What would you do if you knew someone was breaking the law, but the people in charge were protecting them?" The teacher's expression grew grave, her voice dropping to match Destiny's careful tone. "I would gather evidence," she said, her words carrying the weight of personal experience. "I would document everything, build a case so strong that no amount of money or influence could dismiss it." She paused, her eyes searching Destiny's face. "And then I would find people brave enough to act on that evidence, no matter how powerful the criminals might be." The alliance was formed without words. A teacher and a student united by their shared commitment to justice, in a system designed to protect the guilty. Mrs. Foster didn't know about the watch, about Ruby's true identity, or the federal investigation building around them, but she knew enough to offer what help she could. Her classroom becoming a safe space where Destiny could plan the downfall of Alexander Ross. The weeks that followed Mrs. Foster's quiet alliance transformed Destiny from victim into predator. Her grandfather's watch revealing the intricate web of corruption that extended far beyond Alexander's schoolyard cruelty. The device intercepted phone calls between Vincent Ross and city officials, recorded drug transactions in the school parking lot, and documented money transfers that would make federal prosecutors salivate with anticipation. Ruby Martinez proved invaluable as both mentor and backup, her federal training complementing the advanced technology hidden in Destiny's pocket watch. Together, they mapped the Ross family's entire operation, identifying key players, documenting illegal activities, and building a case that would dismantle decades of criminal enterprise. "Your grandfather designed this perfectly," Ruby whispered during a late-night strategy session in Mrs. Foster's empty classroom. "Every piece of evidence is admissible, every recording crystal clear, every financial transaction traceable." Alexander's paranoia grew as spring approached, his instincts warning him of unseen threats, even as his conscious mind dismissed such fears as impossible. How could a poor scholarship student pose any danger to his family's empire? Yet something felt wrong. Conversations seemed to echo strangely, private meetings felt observed, and his father's associates spoke in increasingly worried tones about security concerns and potential leaks. The breaking point came on a rain-soaked Thursday evening, Alexander cornering Destiny in the school's empty chemistry lab after hours. "I know you're up to something," he hissed, his usual composure cracking under the weight of mounting pressure. "My father says someone's been watching us, gathering information, and I think it's you." His hands shook with rage and fear, the golden boy facade finally revealing the frightened child beneath. "I don't know what you're talking about," Destiny replied, her voice steady even as her grandfather's watch recorded every word of his confession. "I'm just trying to survive your constant harassment. That's all I have energy for." But Alexander wasn't listening. His desperation had reached a level where logic no longer applied. "This ends tonight," he whispered, producing a small bottle of concentrated acid from his backpack. "I'm going to destroy that stupid watch of yours. Prove once and for all that you're nothing special." He lunged forward, his movement clumsy with emotion, but Destiny was ready. Her grandfather's training had prepared her for this moment, the watch's defensive systems activating automatically. Alexander poured the acid directly onto the timepiece, expecting to see metal dissolve and crystals shatter. Instead, the watch began to glow, its surface not only undamaged, but somehow enhanced by the chemical assault. "That's impossible," Alexander whispered, backing away as blue light filled the laboratory. "Nothing survives that concentration of acid." "You're right," Destiny said, her voice carrying new authority as the watch's holographic systems fully activated. "Nothing human-made could survive what you just did. But this isn't human technology, and I'm not the helpless girl you think I am." The hologram of her grandfather materialized between them, his image solid enough to cast shadows in the laboratory's fluorescent lighting. "Alexander Ross," the projection spoke, its voice carrying the authority of decades beyond death. "You and your family are finished. Every crime documented, every secret revealed, every corruption exposed." Alexander stumbled backward, his mind struggling to process what he was witnessing. "This is some kind of trick," he stammered, but his voice betrayed his growing terror. "The only trick," Destiny replied, "was making you think you were untouchable." She pressed a sequence on the watch, and suddenly the laboratory's projection screen flickered to life. Video footage appeared. Crystal clear recordings of Alexander selling drugs to middle schoolers. Vincent Ross accepting briefcases full of cash from known mobsters, and police officers destroying evidence in exchange for monthly payments. Alexander's phone buzzed, a text message from his father that made his blood run cold. Emergency meeting cancelled. FBI raid in progress at all properties. Disappear immediately. Trust no one. The Ross family empire was crumbling in real time. Decades of careful construction demolished by a teenage girl with her grandfather's impossible device. "You ruined everything!" Alexander screamed, his composure finally shattering completely. "My family, my future, my entire life!" He charged at Destiny with chemical-burned hands, and went intent on destroying the watch, even if it meant killing her in the process. But Ruby Martinez stepped from the shadows, her federal badge glinting in the laboratory's harsh light. "Alexander Ross," she announced, her teenage disguise falling away to reveal the trained agent beneath. "You're under arrest for drug trafficking, conspiracy to commit murder, and about 50 other federal charges." Handcuffs appeared in her hands, the same hands that had sat beside Destiny at lunch just hours earlier. The auditorium assembly was Ruby's idea, a public revelation that would prevent the Ross family from claiming persecution or planting seeds of doubt about the evidence. "They'll try to spin this as a witch hunt," she explained to Destiny and Mrs. Foster during final preparations. "But if 500 witnesses watch the evidence unfold, if their own community sees the truth, there's no narrative they can create to escape justice." Principal Williams initially refused to authorize the assembly, his financial dependence on the Ross family making him a reluctant participant in their downfall. But Mrs. Foster had collected her own evidence, documentation of bribes and threats that gave Williams a choice between cooperation and federal prosecution. "Sometimes," she told Destiny with grim satisfaction, "even cowards can be motivated to do the right thing." The auditorium fell silent as Destiny returned to her original position, the pocket watch still glowing in her hands as the projection screen continued displaying evidence of the Ross family's crimes. Alexander sat in the front row, handcuffed and flanked by federal agents, his father nowhere to be seen. Vincent Ross was already in custody. His arrest at the family mansion broadcast live on every local news channel. "For 3 months," Destiny continued, her voice carrying clearly through the massive space, "Alexander Ross and his family used their wealth and influence to make my life miserable. They called my grandfather's watch fake. They called me worthless. They used their power to crush anyone who stood in their way." The audience hung on every word, many seeing their own experiences reflected in her story. "But what they did not understand," she said, holding the watch higher so everyone could see its intricate engravings, "is that real power doesn't come from money or fear or violence. Real power comes from truth, from courage, from the willingness to stand up when standing up seems impossible." The holographic projection of her grandfather appeared beside her, his image drawing gasps from the assembled students and faculty. "My grandfather, Dr. Harold Bryant, spent his life fighting corruption." The projection spoke, its voice carrying across decades of silence. "He knew that criminals like the Ross family count on good people doing nothing. They survive by making ordinary citizens feel powerless against their wealth and connections." The hologram turned to face Alexander, its expression filled with the disappointment of a lifetime spent watching evil flourish. "But every empire has a weakness," Dr. Bryant continued. "Every conspiracy leaves evidence, and every criminal eventually makes a mistake. The Ross family's mistake was underestimating a teenage girl with an antique pocket watch. The projection began to fade, its message delivered, its purpose fulfilled. Destiny stepped forward, her eyes scanning the crowd of faces that had witnessed her humiliation and were now seeing her vindication. The evidence you've seen today represents 18 months of federal investigation, she announced, Ruby's coaching evident in her confident delivery. Drug trafficking, money laundering, political corruption, and murder, all committed by people who thought their money made them untouchable. Alexander's head hung in defeat, his golden hair falling across his face like a curtain hiding his shame. The boy who had ruled Westfield Academy through fear and privilege was now just another criminal awaiting trial, his future measured in decades behind bars rather than years of inherited wealth. But this isn't just about one family, Destiny continued, her voice growing stronger with each word. This is about a system that protects the wealthy while crushing the poor, that silences victims while empowering their abusers. Today, that system failed. Today, truth won over money, and justice defeated corruption. The aftermath unfolded like dominoes falling in perfect sequence, each arrest leading to new revelations, each confession exposing deeper layers of corruption. Vincent Ross's cooperation with federal prosecutors revealed a network of criminal activity that stretched across 3 states. His desperate attempt to reduce his sentence providing law enforcement with evidence they'd been seeking for decades. Alexander received 25 years in federal prison, his youth offering little protection against the mountain of evidence Destiny's watch had collected. The golden boy who had terrorized students with impunity became a cautionary tale, his mugshot appearing in newspapers across the country as an example of privilege meeting justice. Principal Williams resigned in disgrace, his acceptance of Ross family bribes making him an accessory to their crimes. Mrs. Foster was appointed interim principal, her courage in supporting Destiny earning her the respect of students and faculty alike. Sometimes, she told the assembled school board, the right choice is also the hardest choice. Ruby Martinez revealed her true age, 24 years old and one of the FBI's youngest agents, her youthful appearance making her perfect for undercover work in educational settings. Your grandfather would be proud, she told Destiny during their final debriefing, her professional demeanor softening into genuine friendship. He designed that watch to find someone exactly like you, someone with the courage to use it properly. Destiny's transformation from victim to hero inspired changes throughout Westfield Academy. Anti-bullying policies were strengthened, financial aid programs expanded, and the toxic culture of wealth-based hierarchy began to crumble. She established the Harold Bryant Foundation, using money seized from the Ross family's assets to help other students facing harassment and intimidation. The pocket watch now sits in a place of honor in Destiny's bedroom. Its advanced technology no longer needed, but its symbolic power undimmed. Sometimes she activates its holographic functions, spending quiet evenings talking with her grandfather's projection about life, justice, and the responsibility that comes with unusual gifts. 6 months after the assembly, Destiny Bryant graduated valedictorian of her class. Her acceptance speech, watched by millions online as her story continued inspiring people worldwide. Real power, she told the audience, echoing her grandfather's words while standing where Alexander Ross once sat in handcuffs, doesn't come from what you have, but from what you're willing to sacrifice for others. The Ross family's former mansion was converted into a community center, its marble floors and crystal chandeliers now serving families who once cleaned such houses for survival wages. Vincent Ross died in federal prison, a massive heart attack ending his life just weeks before trial, while Alexander began serving his sentence in a maximum security facility where his father's money meant nothing. Ruby Martinez was promoted to senior agent, her work on the Ross case earning recognition from FBI headquarters and opening doors to even more significant investigations. "This was just the beginning," she told Destiny during their last meeting, her expression suggesting she knew something about future challenges that hadn't yet been revealed. Mrs. Foster became Westfield Academy's permanent principal, her leadership transforming the school from a playground for privilege into an institution focused on actual education and character development. Under her guidance, the academy began accepting more scholarship students, diversity replacing exclusivity as the school's defining characteristic. The watch continued its mysterious functions, occasionally displaying readings and data that suggested its surveillance capabilities extended far beyond what even Dr. Harold Bryant had initially programmed. Sometimes Destiny caught glimpses of other criminal networks, other corruption, other injustices that seemed to cry out for attention and resolution. On quiet evenings, she wondered if her grandfather had designed the device to be self-improving, its artificial intelligence evolving to meet new challenges as they arose. The holographic projection never confirmed these suspicions, but its occasional knowing smiles suggested that Dr. Harold Bryant had anticipated questions his granddaughter wasn't yet ready to ask. 1 year after Alexander's arrest, Destiny received a package with no return address, its contents consisting of a single photograph and a handwritten note. The picture showed a group of teenagers in expensive uniforms, their smug expressions and casual arrogance immediately familiar despite their unfamiliar faces. The note was brief but chilling. Westfield Academy was just practice. Some games are played on a much larger field. The pocket watch began glowing before Destiny finished reading, its sensors detecting threat patterns that shouldn't have been possible through mere paper and ink. Her grandfather's holographic projection materialized without being summoned, his expression grave as he studied the mysterious message. "It seems," Dr. Harold Bryant said, his voice carrying new urgency, "that your education isn't finished yet. The Ross family was connected to something much larger, something that views your victory as a temporary setback rather than permanent defeat." The hologram's eyes met Destiny's, their artificial intelligence somehow conveying both warning and encouragement. "What are you saying?" Destiny whispered, though part of her already understood the implications. The watch's readings were off the charts, detecting surveillance equipment, encrypted communications, and movement patterns that suggested a sophisticated organization had been studying her for months. "I'm saying," her grandfather replied, his projection beginning to flicker with what looked like interference from external sources, "that your real enemies have finally revealed themselves. The Ross family was just one tentacle of a much larger creature, and now that tentacle has been severed. The beast itself is angry." The lights in Destiny's room flickered, her computer screen displaying streams of code that seemed to be fighting against intrusion attempts from unknown sources. Outside her window, cars that had never been in the neighborhood before were parked with their engines running. "Who are they?" Destiny asked, her fingers instinctively closing around the watch's comforting weight. But her grandfather's projection was fading, whatever force was interfering with the device growing stronger by the moment. "Find Agent Martinez." Dr. Harold Bryant's voice grew distant, his image becoming transparent. "Trust no one else. Question everything you think you know, and remember that the most dangerous enemies are the ones who remain hidden." The hologram disappeared, leaving Destiny alone with questions that multiplied faster than answers. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "The watch your grandfather left you is more valuable than you realize. Some secrets are worth killing for." We'll be in touch. The message deleted itself before Destiny could screenshot it, the device's screen returning to normal as if nothing had happened. Destiny Bryant stared at her reflection in the darkened window, seeing not just a teenage girl who had defeated a local crime family, but a young woman standing at the threshold of something much larger and more dangerous. As Destiny prepared for bed that night, her mind racing with implications she couldn't fully grasp, the pocket watch projected one final message. Not from her grandfather this time, but from a source that identified itself only as the network. The holographic display showed a map of the United States, dozens of red dots pulsing across major cities like a heartbeat of hidden corruption. "Miss Bryant," the computerized voice spoke, its tone carrying neither warmth nor malice, only clinical efficiency. "Your victory against the Ross organization has been noted by entities that operate on a scale your grandfather never imagined. You possess technology that threatens interests spanning multiple continents, interests that have remained hidden for generations." Each red dot on the map expanded, revealing names, dates, and financial transactions that painted a picture of corruption so vast it defied comprehension. "The watch you carry contains algorithms capable of unraveling conspiracies that have shaped world events." The voice continued, its revelation hitting Destiny like physical blows. "Wars have been fought to protect secrets less significant than what you now possess. Governments have fallen to hide truths your device could reveal in minutes." The projection flickered with interference. Whatever forces Dr. Harold Bryant had hidden his granddaughter from were now fully aware of her existence. "You have 72 hours to decide," the final message appeared in stark red letters. "Join us willingly, or face consequences that extend far beyond your imagination. The choice, as they say, is yours." The watch went dark, leaving Destiny alone with the weight of knowledge that no 17-year-old should have to bear.